Hello everyone, today we're going to be building some more Jurassic World. For this video I'll be returning to Jurassic World Dominion once again, and this time I'll be building the highly requested Therizinosaurus. This ended up being one of my best builds for many different reasons, so if you'd like to see the full build make sure you watch to the end of the video. Before we begin the build itself, I wanted to start off by looking at LEGO's official molded version. I think it's an okay mold, but it definitely has its flaws. They use the same body that they do for other dinosaurs like the Indoraptor and the Baryonyx. Since this dinosaur is smaller than the larger carnivores, they decided to go with the smaller body style. A big downside with this is it looks very thin, which doesn't help with these large new front arm pieces. To get the long iconic claws, they had to make a new piece for the arms, which ended up being very wide to incorporate the bar to clip on the claws. I also think the claws themselves could have looked better too. They also introduced a new head mold for this dinosaur as well. For this molded dinosaur, I definitely think this head looks pretty good. It has the sand blue around the eye and some dark red feather patterns, but the bottom jaw and the front of the mouth are very lackluster in terms of the colors they could have used. Now that we've had a look at LEGO's version, we can get started with my build. I started off by building this small base plate. I used a couple 2x2 tiles with some holes in the center. This is where the dinosaur's feet will be anchored down later. I included a few small plants as well as this angled tree. And of course I added my support pillar made out of 2x2 translucent round bricks. With the base out of the way, we can get on to the actual build of the Therizinosaurus. I of course started out with the large body. I tried to make the body a little thicker to replicate what it looks like in the movie. In the movie it has a very full, bushy look to it because of all the feathers. I tried to capture that feather details with this 2x2 modified slope. I thought they were perfect for adding a little bit of texture. You can see I've made a stripe of light bluish gray pieces. This also breaks up the dark bluish gray color that it's mostly made of. Here you can see the ball joint pieces for the neck and the tail that we'll add on later. With the body done, I of course moved on to the tail next. As usual, there's nothing too special about the tail elements. You can see I've carried on the light bluish gray stripe on the side, as well as the dark red feather detailing on the top. I tried to capture the feathery look on the tail with some 1x1 dark red slopes. And there we have our completed tail, which can also articulate a lot better than some of my recent dinosaurs too. And with the tail done, here's a look at the back legs. I of course had to build two of these. You can see I've carried on the light bluish gray stripe on these as well. On the back of the feet, I attached a 1x1 bracket piece that'll be used to attach it to the base later. And just like my Allosaurus build, I included some ball joint pieces instead of hinge plates here. This gives it a lot more range of motion. These legs are also very sturdy and can be moved around a lot. Now that we've got our back leg builds complete, we can move on to the front arms. At a first glance, you're going to be able to notice it's missing a pretty key detail. I purposely didn't include the claws so we can add them on later. I added some hinges to give it some more functionality as well as the ball joint in the hand. And for the feathers under the arm, I included some 1x1 slope pieces. I'll add the claws on later since they're my favorite part and I think it'll be really cool adding them on once the rest of the build is complete. But for now we can move on to the neck. The neck is much longer than it is on most of my other dinosaur builds. Another key feature of the Therizinosaurus is its long, thin neck. You can see I've carried on the light bluish gray stripe and the dark red pieces on the back. With all the other components complete, we can move on to the head itself. This is much smaller than most of the other dinosaur head builds that I've had to make. There's something about this one that I really liked and I think the shaping turned out pretty good. You can see I've made the eyes white like they are in the movie. Since it has blind glazed over eyes, I wanted to make sure to capture it in my build. The bottom jaw can also open up as well. Overall, I was really happy with how this head turned out since it's usually a very hard part to replicate. But now that we have all the components of the dinosaur done, we can attach them all together. I started off by adding the tail, and then moved on to attaching the back legs into place. They fit in nicely with the 1x2 bricks with the holes in the sides. I made sure it was a flat surface around them so they could move back and forth. Then we could attach the head to the neck. With more practice building these dinosaurs, I've been able to make them a lot more sturdy. I haven't had any issues building these lately. The only one I came across with this one was adding on the front arms. I popped off the front chest a little bit. But it's a very easy fix and it's not a flimsy part of the model by any means. And then the other front arm clipped into place very nicely. And now for one of the final parts to attach, we have the neck and the head, which fits nicely in the space I made in the front. And now our Therizinosaurus is almost complete. Before adding the claws and attaching it to the stand, I wanted to take a look at it first. I think this is one of my better builds in terms of looks, functionality, and stability. With this one, you can actually play around with it off the stand and it will stay completely intact, which is definitely not something I can say about all of my other dinosaur builds too. Some of the lower jaws on my other builds aren't even able to open up, since I usually have to sacrifice this function for better stability. And now with incorporating ball joints in the legs, they're able to move around a lot more. And this one even has articulation in the tail. But now without further delay, I'll add it to the stand. While I attach the build to the stand, I wanted to start rating these dinosaurs. I'll be using the same three categories I mentioned earlier. For stability, this is definitely my first 10 out of 10 build so far. And for function, I'll give this a 9 since the neck is stuck into place. And for the looks of this dinosaur, I wanted to let you guys decide in the comments. Since I'm pretty biased, I think you all will be a better judge of how good this dinosaur looks. And now we have our almost completed Therizinosaurus build. It's still missing one of the most important parts of this dinosaur build, which is the claws. I was very excited to add these on since I love the way they look on the dinosaur. Here's the build I came up with. I used a clip piece, a black candlestick, and a regular black claw at the end. In the movie, the claws look pretty straight with only a little bit of curve in them. So I tried to capture this look with my build, as the only curvature in the claws is at the very end with the regular claw piece. Here's a picture of what they looked like in the movie for a good comparison. You can see they're much darker in color and look a lot straighter. And now with all 6 of the claws attached, we have our completed Therizinosaurus build. Those long claws definitely bring this build together. I really love the way this one looks since it's different from some of the other builds I've made recently. I like having more unique dinosaurs since it breaks up the repetitiveness of some of the others. This might be my new favorite, but I say that every time. And now I can compare it to LEGO's official molded version. As usual, my build is definitely much bigger than LEGO's. One thing I noticed is that there's a lot more dark red on mine than there is on LEGO's. Another key difference is they chose to go with tan for the claws. They're also shorter and more curved than mine are. They also went with dark tan for the underbelly, and it doesn't even carry on to the tail. And mine has more color around the mouth with the tan. And I added a more vibrant blue around the eyes too. Overall, I think my build looks a lot better than the official molded version. I think theirs doesn't look the best because it's repurposed parts for a very unique build. Either way, I still like the way my build turned out. And now with our build fully complete, we of course have to add it onto the shelf. Once again, I had to clear a spot out for this guy since my shelf was getting very cluttered. Since the Therizinosaurus is also from Dominion, I made a spot right next to the Giganotosaurus. And I think they pair together pretty well. Here's a look at the shelf so far. I think it's really cool getting to see all the dinosaur builds together. I love how the shelf is looking so far. Of course, remember to let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Thank you all very much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Bye!